Hey everybody, I'm Mary. Thank you for joining me today on another Facebook Live here at the Country Chic Paint page. Last week you guys may have tuned in to watch me paint this chair in our awesome Sunday tea, which is like a gray beige. I wet distressed it in the video and told you guys I would be back to paint the chair, glaze the chair and paint this awesome cushion, which just pops right out. So we're just gonna be doing that today. And just for watching, you guys are eligible to win our giveaway today just by commenting. I think the question we're gonna ask is probably just, what do you plan on painting today? Or
yeah, what projects do you have on the go?
Yeah, so what you get is 2 pints of 16-ounce paint and our pint of glaze, all of your choice. We've got a couple different types of glaze. This is just our warm brown smoky quartz, and these are just a couple examples of some awesome paint that you can win. And you also get a painting sponge. This is amazing, can go between our glazes, top coats, and paint. So you just got to rinse between the washes. So make sure you comment and let us know what you plan on painting or what kind of style you would do with a chair like this. And you could potentially win that. So just going to get right into it today. We are going to probably start painting this just so we can probably do 2 coats. You can paint right onto the upholstery. Tighter weaves are probably best to paint. We've got a great tutorial as well for painting fabrics and upholstery, just in case you wanted to do tea towels or t-shirts or something. You can also do this. So I've gone ahead and picked out some colors that I thought would be really good. I've just done a couple sample swatches before I painted the whole thing to know what it would look like. I think I'm going to go with Jitterbug from our main line or Wondrous, but I think I like the look of Jitterbug with our Sunday tea. So just going to do that. So these are just little test swatches. It's always good to do that on a discrete area of the piece if you're not sure how it's going to turn out. So I'm just going to give myself a bit of room here and get right to painting.
Heather says, hi, I'm Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Hello, hi.
And Pamela says, pink is my favorite color. I guess I'd have to paint this chair pink. Nice.
Well, we've got Vintage Cupcake, Full Bloom, which is a really vibrant coral.
Cherry Blossom.
Yeah, tons. And a whole pint of those would be great. All right. So just going to take the 1/2-inch oval brush that I've got here, and I'm just going to paint it directly on. Sometimes what you could do is spray bottle the whole surface just to get it a little damp, but I'm just going to paint directly on this today. There are a couple tips with working on upholstery that all kind of depend on the actual upholstery you're painting. Firmer cushions that you see in dining rooms and stuff like that kind of look a lot like this. A lot of times they can just be painted right over. You might want to have that spray bottle handy, or even a fine grit sanding block for just in between layers. There's a lot of pilling, and each time I let a coat dry, I could just go over with a sanding block, buff that up and smooth it out.
When I've painted upholstery before, I know with a really tight weave like this one that Mary's painting today, you can, exactly like she's doing, if you've got a looser weave fabric or something with a little more texture to it, that's where the spray will go a little more smoothly.
Things like faux velvet or whatever, or suede, I would highly recommend having a spray bottle, otherwise you'll get that patchy look, and that's where the sanding block can come in too, just so you don't get that tie-dyed, different color, darker paints in the area. The spray bottle and the sanding block will help.
Oh, Jessica says, so glad I came across this. I was about to throw out 6 dining chairs that my kids destroyed. Well, hopefully you can save them.
Yes. Destroyed furniture is also the best to practice on, too.
Mm-hmm. You have nothing to lose.
Too far, yeah. So as you can see, it's going to absorb quite a bit of paint than just painting right onto wood. Wood will absorb a little bit, but this is soaking it right up. So that's why having the spray bottle helps if you're trying to cut down on your paint. You might have a few more coats that you'll be doing like that, but this is working for me. And I'm kind of just slapping it on and working it in because there is some detail here that I really want to cover up. Once this is dry, this will cover really nicely, but this will probably give me some trouble needing another coat. But
yeah, you can see it's already popping through a little bit here, but we're actually...
Because painted fabric will always feel to seal it with natural wax, but it's always going to be just a little bit firmer than it was before. So thinner coats, many thin coats is always better than a couple thick ones. So I'm not trying to splash it on and get all the paint in one area. I'm just trying to get it on first. And if I have to do 3 coats, that'd be just fine. Make sure it's good.
Heather Brown asked, how many layers?
How many layers? Well, I'm just talking about that right now. I'm just going to start with 1, see how it goes. I know I'll probably need 2 and maybe a 3rd for touch-ups, just depending. But I'm going with just typically moderate thin coats, not very thick. I'm kind of going in all directions because the weave tends to go this way, but there's a lot of detail, so I want to just really make sure it's in there.
Yeah, and I think back to the number of layers of paint you need, I think it really depends on the pattern of the fabric.
And your application.
And your application of it, because something like this that has like a creamy white backdrop with the greenish leaves on it, it might require a couple more coats to cover that. But if you've got a solid colored fabric, you may only need 1 or 2 coats, you know.
So yeah, pattern can play a part. Also the color you chose to use. Our paint coverage is amazing on most surfaces, but with fabric you're always going to get kind of an experiment each time. So I picked a good color. I knew that it would cover probably a little bit better than Wondrous, which is the color just on this awesome little nightstand here. I really wanted that with Sunday tea, but Jitterbug is my favorite color, so I'm not too broken up on using it today.
It seems to be a lot of people's favorites. I've seen it everywhere lately. It's so pretty.
There was like a gorgeous tall boy that I saw with great detail, and it was just so gorgeous. It's just perfect.
Jennifer asked, would this work on any fabric?
Give it a good test. We do have our tutorial on our website, just upholstery tutorial. Most fabrics it does. The tighter weaves are better. I wouldn't do like a very overstuffed couch that, you know, has had its time. You could try practicing on that one. You might get good results. It just depends on the fabric itself.
I also wouldn't necessarily recommend a really like a higher pile fabric. Yeah. The higher pile it is, the more likely it's going to become crunchy in the end, which is not really what you want.
So just working that in. You can kind of see how it's drying, that we're starting to see the threads there. We're starting to see the flower embroidery design peeking through, but that's all right. It's very convenient that this cushion contaminate the other parts of the furniture.
Yeah, a lot of times they do come out though, so check if you're doing something like dining room chairs, which a lot of people in the comments seems like they are, check in the bottom if there's screws that you can undo and take the seat out, because that'll just make your life so much easier.
Definitely. All right, and I'm just going to get the back, because we're going to want to sit on this one day, so I don't want to be missing spots.
Jennifer also asked, do darker colors work best on fabric, or does it depend on the fabric?
A bit of both. Depends on the fabric and the color you're choosing. If I decided to paint Sunday tea on this cushion, I will probably be doing more coats than I would with Jitterbug, but both have really good coverage, so it might be a little tricky to tell until you try.
And Heather asked, did you clean the fabric?
I didn't. I gave it a good slap and dust came out, to be honest. I didn't clean it. I highly recommend, if you're doing this project for your own dining room chairs, please give them a good clean.
Especially if they're really old,
well
loved.
If the kids have gone to them, give it a good clean, because you don't want food contaminants working in with your new finish if you're going to be using these as new again. So clean your furniture. It's step 1. or slap the dust out. That's also a very somewhat way of cleaning things. So yeah, I've poured quite a bit of paint out here. I think, I don't know, I don't want to guess too much, but maybe a sample could cover this cushion pretty well, and then I'd have some left over. So maybe our little 4-ounce sample could cover a cushion like this, if anyone's wondering. Maybe you just have one chair you want to try, or you have that whole set of 6.
Someone said they had a set of 13. That's a big project.
13 chairs. What's that room look like? My goodness, that's awesome.
I wish my dining room held 13 chairs.
Yeah.
I even think it looks a little bit cool with the pattern kind of poking out a little bit.
Sort of creating your own. Like, there's little things. I was thinking about if we've got a little printed stamp that I did on this one. So again, this is a lighter color if anybody was curious. I've got just the other chair that was painted with a lighter color, same cushion. I think that one took maybe 3 or 4 coats, like moderate to thin coats, and then I stamped on something because I didn't want just the plain look. But I actually kind of like how the design is peeking through with Jitterbug here.
We have a couple more questions. Jessica asked, how well would this last outdoors? A disclaimer, she's putting on her covered back patio.
Okay, well, a covered back patio is good for the furniture. We do recommend, just for a softer finish, just picking out a random hair there, if anyone was curious. seal with natural wax for a softer finish. It also adds just a little bit of protection to the piece. I wouldn't recommend using our typical water-based top coats like clear coat or tough coat, because if you were to put that on a malleable cushion, it would crack.
It would be very stiff.
Very weird. Yeah, stiff and weird. So I wouldn't do that, but if it's undercover, maybe just natural wax the cushions and you'd be absolutely fine. Cover them on a rainy day just to keep that mildew smell out, but other than that, I would just treat it like any other cushions that you have outside.
I know some of our retailers have painted their patio furniture before, and it seems like they've held up just fine, so yeah.
If you're painting wood furniture though, and it's going outside, go ahead and put on our tough coat. That's good. It's great for outdoors, designed for outside projects.
Jennifer also asked, did you sand the wood frame of the chair before you painted it?
Good question. Yes, I did. That was in a different video last week. I gave it an all-over buffing just because, you can't see it, but the original varnish was just a little bit shiny, and I knew that I would have a better chance having it painted here the first time, just with a little scuff sand to dull the shine. So I used 180 grit, just a sanding block all over, and then dusted that off, and it was ready to go.
Heather Brown says she's watching while cooking supper.
Nice. What are you making?
It's a fun way to spend the
I'm
evening.
happy with how that looks so far. That's the first coat. Still a little wet, but it's looking good. You can very much see the flowers design popping through, but I'm quite okay with that.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to set that aside, and we're going to start glazing the chair. So right now it's just Sunday tea and distressed a little bit.
Sorry, Marianne asked, how long does the paint last?
Like in the jar, we guarantee a year unopened, and I think opened as long as it's
Oh, other way around. A year after it's been opened.
A year after it's been opened, sorry. And then unopened, we have yet to see it actually go off. I've got, I didn't start at the beginning of the company, but I know Sarah has a couple of some of the original paints she's still using, and they're open. Some of them were closed, and I'm sure they're still good. Just to make sure you give everything a good shake. Keep it in a room-controlled area, not a hot shed in the middle of summer. Probably won't be good for it. They last quite a long time though, as long as they're taken care of, and you keep the lids and the jars clean.
Carol said she has an Ethan Allen upholstered bench, and she was going to have it reupholstered, but she may have to try this instead. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
You can't lose.
Yeah, well, and if you don't like it, you can just continue to reupholster it, so, yeah. And, alright, so today I'm going to be using our Graphite Glaze. I've just got a little sample jar here. This is our 4 ounce. Could easily do this chair, maybe a few more. I like to use it pretty sparingly and build up the coverage as I go. Looks like I've just got the one brush here. Sorry, just one moment. I'm just going to grab a bigger brush to make this.
And while she's doing that, I'm going to show you guys the giveaway prize again. One lucky winner at the end of today's video is going to get 2 pints of our all-in-one decor paint, 1 pint of furniture glaze like Mary's about to use now, and 1 of our painting sponges. So don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what projects you have in the go, and you could win.
Many more than just one chair will cover that. Those 16-ounce pints will go away.
Oh yeah, you could use a couple of big projects with that.
I like smoky quartz. I used it on the baseboard trim of my bathroom. Mixed that with a little bit of licorice, and I had this like rustic wood board look. I loved it. So this is just Sunday tea. I think I'm going to start just on the front of the chair so you guys can see the amazing detail take place. So I'm just going to brush that on. This has a little bit of like a flow medium to it, so it's a little different than our paint. It'll operate a little differently. You could do washes of black to get similar looks, but I just like using our glaze because it's all in there and ready to use for me. And I'm just going to really make sure got it in the crevices, because when I go to wipe away, everything that I can't reach will stay behind, dry, and darken up. And we'll just get it right in there. This is where the painting sponge might come in handy. You can certainly use that for chair spindles and your glaze.
Oh, good question, Jennifer. She says, would 1 can do my 13 chairs? Depends.
You say that the 4-ounce sample will cover probably a chair of this size, like paint-wise. So you might want to grab maybe a pint or 2, and that would be good.
And it depends too if you're doing just the upholstery or if you're doing the full chair frame as well. Yeah, but 1 pint, which is the size of the jars in the background there that we're giving away today, 1 pint will cover about 60 square feet on average. Yeah, so hopefully that gives you an idea of how far it'll go.
Now you can let the glaze sit for a little bit if you like, but I like to just wipe it right off as I put it on. And I'm not gonna wipe off right away as hard as I can. I kind of just like to brush this. This is a dampened shop towel. Sorry. Yeah, just a damp shop towel. It's lint free, so I'm not gonna get any extra debris on my, if you're going for a rustic effect. So it's really just added 20 years to the chair, and I'm loving it.
You can see here the difference in the color. This is what has been glazed. It's a little bit darker.
Yeah.
And this is the side that has not been glazed yet.
Yeah. And for anybody wondering, if you were to just paint, let the paint sit for an hour and then glaze, you'll find that some of the paint will come off a bit too, because now you're taking a damp towel and you're sort of wet distressing. So give the paint plenty of time to dry if you're doing something similar.
Oh, this ties in perfectly. Pearl asked, how long should the paint dry before glazing?
I say a good couple of hours, more than a good couple of hours, maybe 6 to overnight might be best. Just to really give it a good chance to adhere. So that's just a little different. And I like to build up coverage too, so I might let that dry maybe for 10 minutes and then go back in again with another coat. But I'm just going to do the top of the chairs just so we can kind of compare areas. Then if anyone tunes in later, they'll see the difference, and that might be helpful.
And the glaze is nice and versatile too. You can wipe away as much or as little as you want, pretty much. So if you want it to be really subtle, wipe quickly as you go and take away lots of color. Or if you like darker and more antique, then, you know.
This is one of those fun products where it's kind of up to you how it looks in the end. Like how I am removing the glaze determines how the overall look happens. So if I were to just like sponge this away, getting a totally different look than what's recommended in our tutorial. I'm not wiping it away at all. If I were to let that dry, it would look very interesting. But I am going to wipe it away, and I'm going to wipe it kind of just loosely in the direction the wood grain is going. If I were to do this, I'd get a totally different reaction. So you can see how you can just, so many looks.
Brandy asked, does the glaze seal the paint?
No, this is an effect product. This doesn't add durability to the piece. Stains and glazes usually don't. They're more just to add nice effect. I would top coat this when I'm done, probably with clear coat or natural wax.
And Debbie asked, has anyone tried this paint on fabric lampshades?
Actually, a few of us have. I know Roseanne played around with it, dripping paint down the side of them, and it looked really cool. One lady, just a customer, asked some advice on how to make like a sea green lampshade, and she did, I think she did Tropical Cocktail and Midnight Sky, actually. Kind of just blended together, or maybe it was Bliss, and she painted right over there. When you are painting lampshades, just keep in mind when the light's on, it's going to show your brush strokes. So
yeah, so something like the sponge might be good.
Yeah, if you're wanting a more uniform look, and again, if you're going for patterns on there, just be careful that the paint is like opaque and very well on, and that it's not thin coats, because you might see patchiness, I guess, once the light's on. If the light's never on and it's just for decor, don't worry about it, but yeah, that'd be a good tutorial to do maybe.
I have plans someday to do some
experimenting. Pay attention to what you're doing.
Oh no! We got Jitterbug on our chair.
Here's an example of a wash, everyone. Yeah, I could leave that on and give it some character. I think I might. Let's just leave a little bit of it on there as like a Mary's mistake. There we go. See, it washes right off if you're quick enough.
Victoria asked if you can wax over the glaze.
Yes, you can, actually. Once it's dry, I would give it a good chance to dry. I would let everything, before you're about to seal something, a good rule of thumb is always let it dry for 12 to 24 hours, even like a full day or two is best. When I'm done, I think I might go in with our natural wax and our wax brush and just kind of buff it on and then wipe it away with a dry cloth. And then that will give me a really nice soft finish that's not, it's just slightly shinier than our matte. And our natural wax, I'll show you here if I can get this open. My favorite thing to use in the whole world. It's a very firm traditional wax. This is a little skin here, so you peel that back. Good, perfectly good to use wax right there, and you just push the bristles into it. I'm not going to put it on the chair right now, but you work the bristles into the wax. You've got a little bit on there. You buff it right on, and then you can let it sit for 5 minutes or an hour, and then just buff it away until it's smooth.
Let's see. Pearl asked if you don't like what you've done, can you just paint over the glaze?
You sure can. Yes, you can. You can sand it off if you had the time, but you can always just paint right over it. Sometimes I go a little too far with darkening it up, and I want to bring back that kind of like washed out shabby look, so I might just go back in with a little Sunday tea and touch up stuff. So yeah, you can always paint right over it again.
Aw, Heather said, you ladies are great doing these tutorials. Thanks,
Thank
Heather.
you.
I'm so glad you're liking them.
I've contaminated my glaze brush with Jitterbug, so I'm going to use one of our artist brushes. My painting station at home is always just a bit of a mess, so it's nice to do it here too. Alright, so I'm just slapping it on, so using a totally different brush. I could use the sponge if I wanted to. It's quite thick how I'm applying it here. I'll be wiping most of it off. So if you want to make your glaze jar go as far as possible, maybe just apply it thinly, let it sit, wipe off instead of thick, because then you find you might run out of glaze faster than you like. But it all just really depends on your own application.
And keep in mind, I don't know if Mary mentioned yet, the glaze dries quite fast.
Yeah.
So
The longer
work
I
in
leave
small
it,
sections like
yeah.
she's doing here.
I'm not going to go and glaze the entire chair and then start removing, because I think by the time I work my way to the end, this gets tacky to the touch. So if I let this sit and then went to pull it away, I'll find that I have like a permanent black line. And that's not a fault of the glaze itself, it's just doing its job. It's drying where I left it, but I went and overworked it. So it's still good, it's still giving me a nice smooth finish, but I think if I left some of those streaks, and if you're going for that look, it all just depends on the look you're going for. If you're going for that, leave it on and then try and take it off after it's tacked up a bit. You'll get a very neat effect.
Oh, Mary Ann asked where we got these squeeze bottles. Here, I'll show you. These particular ones we actually ordered from a company called Russell Hendricks, I believe, but you can order them online, absolutely. Someone mentioned they got theirs on Amazon. Yeah, they're just called FIFO bottles, first in, first out.
Very
and they're
handy.
super handy, especially if you're like teaching workshops, or if you're just painting all the time like we are. They're very handy to have on hand.
My mom loves these. She hates having to open up jars. It's just very easy to just grab and go, especially if you like mixing your colors. So yeah, just thin coats, and working a section at a time. What's everybody working on this week? Anybody painting right now? Anybody doing similar chair glazing as we speak? Let us know in the comments. Also, don't forget the giveaway is happening at the end of this video. All you have to do is let us know what you feel like painting, and you could be the lucky winner of 2 pints of paint, a pint of glaze, and our awesome painting sponge.
And you get to pick any 2 colors of paint, any
Those are
color
just
of
some
glaze
great
that you
examples.
like.
And if you're curious about what the other finishes of glaze are, I'm using our black glaze. I think that just goes really well if you're unsure what kind of style you're going for or how to match your decor. Smoky quartz or graphite are probably really good ones to start with. Graphites are black and smoky quartz is the brown. So if you want like an antique warm toned look, try smoky quartz. If you want just kind of a grungy aged look that's kind of a neutral, go ahead with our graphite. You might like that.
Brandy asked, wax does seal the paint, correct? She wants to
does.
order it in the pearl.
Ah, yes it does. Yep, it does.
Yeah, it's a really nice light layer of protection for projects that probably won't get as much wear and tear as, a dining table would per se for something, for example.
I'm not going to
but
be constantly handling the actual wood pieces of this, so it's just getting pushed into the table every so often and maybe cleaned occasionally for dust. So I am totally good with the natural wax option there.
Oh, really good question here. Pearl said, what is the difference between using glaze and dark wax?
Mostly, well, it's the application and kind of the finish you get, all depending on your application, but the wax is a firmer one, so it'll give you a more subtle finish. It won't really give you a brush finish where, it's kind of like where I'm pulling away is how you can see it's being left behind. With our wax, you're kind of buffing into the crevices using a lint-free rag to just kind of work it all over, so you get more of like a subtle gradient kind of.
You can blend it a little better, I think.
You can blend it a little better. Though the difference with it does depend on what you plan on doing with the piece. Again, how much traffic this piece is going to see. Glaze can have a top coat put on top of it. Wax cannot. You can use hemp oil with our wax, but our water-based top coat won't adhere over top of wax. So if you want, sorry to be confusing, if you wanted that antique finish with our waxes, just be prepared to keep it at a wax durability instead of something a little stronger, because if you were to put that on top, the water-based top coat, it might dry a little blotchy, not adhere very well to an oil surface. With glazes, you can seal with tough coat or clear coat because it is water-based, it's not oil-based, so it will be more durable because I went this option, I guess, with glaze instead of like a black wax or antiquing wax. So it just really depends on the level of durability you're after and the effect you want. But we've got sample finishes on our website of both glaze and waxes that might kind of help show how that works.
Darcy asked, does the wax rub off on clothing?
It does to some degree. Once it's cured, it's pretty much on there, but we do recommend not putting tinted waxes on actual seating surfaces. So if you have that cute rustic church style bench or anything like that, antique it up all you like on the outsides. Maybe use smoky quartz on the actual seated surface, so that won't come off onto people's bottoms. So or natural wax. I'm going to use natural wax on the seat cushion. Once that's cured, it's not going to come off onto anyone's clothes.
Darcy also asked if you have to re-wax, and if so, how often?
Another good question. That's on our wax instruction video as well. Just depends on the level of wear. We recommend 6 months to a year, depending if it's very well fondled or something like that. So I think with a chair like this that's just being used in a dining room, occasionally maybe wax it once a year. I would give them a good feel, and if they feel like bare bones to the paint, maybe just give it a good light seal.
And Kim asked, how does the paint and wax hold up on outdoor furniture?
Somebody had that question with the covered porch. If you were to paint your upholstery or your your painted furniture and then wax it, maybe don't put it out directly under rain and snow and sun or resistance. But if it's just under a covered porch, you should be all right.
Lots of people seem like they're excited to start trying this technique now.
Nice. The paint, I've seen people paint faux leather couches, and it's kind of depends on how plush that fabric is. I think those big squishy couches could be painted. I've seen a few done really well. It just depends kind of on the surface you've got. It would adhere. I would natural wax that maybe for a softer feel. I've seen them in people's storefronts. But again, those aren't really like everyday couches. They're more display items that people sit on sometimes. Or it'd be like a feature chair maybe in your living room. That's probably... but I've also seen one lady painted her, I think it was like a velvet chair. And it's in her living room. She uses it every day and loves it. So...
Oh, two similar questions here. Jessica asked, how would you clean it if your kids spill on it? And Missy said, how kid-friendly is this?
Well, it's... right now it's not at its max durability. I've just painted and I'm using a glaze for effect. I would seal this with wax just for a softer finish. It should hold up to kids pretty nicely. You might find yourself touching up the wax if you have children that are constantly fondling the furniture. Maybe just do it once a year, quick touch up with our natural wax.
And did you talk about spills yet?
Spills, no.
Yeah,
just a damp cloth usually and a mild soap cleaner is best. We do have our brush soap, which is good for like cleaning the bristles and everything. I'd say a mild soap, but probably start with just a damp cloth and water.
And definitely try to catch them as soon as possible,
yeah. It's a pretty porous paint, so I mean if I spilled tomato soup all over this, red on Sunday tea will stay red, probably just a little
The
bit.
Wax will help with that. But
I like to have just a little resistance, so the wax is kind of nice, just to put a little barrier between that. But it isn't like the end-all be-all of protection, so if you're really worried about spills like that, maybe clear coat would be the better option after painting.
Victoria asked, what is that you're using to wipe off the glaze?
Oh, this is a lint-free shop towel. This can be found at any hardware store. I can't remember what these ones are called in particular, but just make sure it's lint-free. So when you go into the store, just give it a good pull and see if anything comes out. If you're seeing little fibers right away, that's a no-no. Don't use those. These are good. There's quite a few. You can use old t-shirts, things like that. Just nothing lint-free. You don't want to wreck your pretty hard work. So.
Lisa said she just joined, so you painted and now you're using glaze.
Yes, I painted in the last video. This paint has had plenty of time to dry. It's had about a week. I would suggest giving your paint layers a good 12 hours to 24 hours before you started glazing, just because I'm not just brushing something on, I'm now taking something away. So I really want to make sure the layer underneath has stayed put for that to happen. So I've already gone over this 5 minutes ago. I let it dry, and now I'm just going over it again just to darken it up a bit.
And down here you can sort of see, yeah, she's just covering it now, the difference in the color between the original.
So this is another thing important to note. This is kind of user... I'm not happy with this because I let all of the glaze just kind of goop at the bottom where it lay. It's now dried that way, so I kind of got to work a little harder to buff it out and just make it blend in with the rest of my finish. So wherever you slap the glaze on, it will stay there. So just be mindful of drips, kind of just like when you're painting anything. If you're going for a cleaner finish, just work in sections. Don't try and glaze the whole piece and then start removing it.
Oh, Pamela says, maybe I missed it, but what colors of glaze do you carry? I can't see them on your website. I must be blind. Don't worry. They're in our shop, probably I think they're in the specialty products section, and it's called Furniture Glaze. We have, I believe, the 5 colors.
Are you sure?
This is graphite that we're using right here. It's a almost black, dark gray. And then I can show you over here, we've got smoky quartz. Yeah, we should have brought them all. This is smoky quartz, really nice dark chocolatey brown. We also have tiger's eye, which is more of a warm reddy brown.
These are in our squeeze bottles. Yeah. Sorry, we don't have them in our actual
But there's
right
limestone and slate, white, and a nice medium tone gray. Mm-hmm. And then
shimmer, sparkle.
And there's also, oh yeah, shimmer and sparkle glazes are super fun. And we have a clear glaze that you can mix with a little bit of our paint, so you can tint it to be any color that you want. So you could make like a blue glaze or a pink glaze if you wanted.
Mm-hmm. There's a good video on the clear glaze if anybody wants to see. I haven't had a chance to play around with the clear glaze exactly, but Roseanne painted something gray, and then she used Tropical Cocktail, which is a very vibrant teal, mixed it with the clear glaze, and the piece had really nice detail on the front. It was already gray, and when she put the Tropical Cocktail over it, it just highlighted everything in this like bright, beautiful color. But it was so subtle, it kind of looked like reverse distressing, but she did it with glaze, so it was really cool. You do so many things.
Lindsay says, I have an old desk sitting, waiting, glaring at me. Nice. I know what that's like.
Yeah, paint me. Yeah.
And
I get you.
Oh, let's see here. We have another question. Someone was asking if we still stir the paint in the bottles or just shake.
I give it a good shake.
Yeah, shake.
With these, I've refilled them a couple of times. I noticed that with the plastic bottles here, the paint can dry up just on these ends. So maybe give it a good rinse before you reuse them or something like that. It's a great alternative. But yeah, shake your paint.
But yeah, if you're working with pints or our 4-ounce jars like this, shake the jar really well and then open it up and stir it as well.
Okay, so I let that sit a bit. I'm gonna brush it off. This was the other leg. This is just one little coat.
Carolyn says, most of my house has been country chiced.
Nice. So where I accidentally tainted my paintbrush and put Jitterbug on here, to the lady who was asking if we can just paint over all of this stuff, we sure can. I'm going to fix these corrections after the video, I think, and just put a little more Sunday tea there, let that dry for a little bit, and then maybe put one little thin coat of graphite just to make it all blend. So,
Lisa's asking, how long do you let the glaze dry before wiping it?
It can kind of depend on the look you're going for. I like to brush it on, maybe let it sit for 20 seconds, and then wipe it off. Glaze does dry pretty quickly, so be sure to work in sections. Just going to show you here, this is a spot that I applied. If I was just to leave that for 5 minutes and then try to wipe that away, I can actually show you guys how that would happen. It kind of doesn't come off. It stays where I applied it. So if I didn't want that messy look, it's kind of hard to rub it off now that it's dried a bit. So, but it's still wet, so it's all good. And I just wanted a more subtle finish.
And Amanda asked, how long do you have to work with it before it dries?
Like I said, probably just maybe a couple of minutes before it's really dry. Maybe just let it sit for 20 seconds before you brush it off. It's good to just try maybe start with the back of a piece, see how it works for you. And always try and work in sections instead of trying to cover the whole piece at once.
Darcy says, what's the best type of brush to use to apply glaze and paint, natural or synthetic bristle?
The synthetic bristles are best. Our paint's water-based, so I think that if you use the natural ones, The bristles kind of absorb a lot of water. They swell and make it little, they don't stay as firm as we want them to.
They tend to splay out after a while, and they're not as smooth.
For a neater application, the synthetic ones are good. We have a great line of artist brushes, which I'm using for the tinier ends, odds and ends that I can't use a big brush for. But our sponge can be used for glaze and paint. These brushes certainly can. Anything really.
Heather asked, normally how long would it take to do this chair start to finish? So painting, distressing, glazing, painting the upholstery, the whole
I'd
thing.
say it could probably be done in 2 days. You want to really give everything proper dry times. That would probably be the only thing that takes up my time.
Yeah, the actual painting time, probably not very long, a couple of hours.
But just make sure that the hairdryer, sorry if I got paint on my face. Sorry if the hairdryer is too close, you could kind of wreck the paint finish if it starts to bubble. Like, you really don't want to mess too much with that, but maybe a hairdryer 30 centimeters away would be kind of good just to speed up the process. A good six hours to dry before you kind of move on to the next step. And if you're going to seal something, give it a good day. Time comes into play. Or the lady who has the desk staring at her still, it's kind of like you could use that time. So
don't forget, because we're almost finishing up here, don't forget to enter our giveaway. Leave a comment and tell us what furniture painting project you're working on right now, or maybe something that you have planned. The winner is going to get 2 pints of all-in-one decor paint, 1 pint of our furniture glaze, and 1 of our painting sponges. And the painting sponge is awesome for applying paint. It can be used to apply glaze, almost anything. So it's very versatile.
So I think I'm going to call it a day for the glazing. I'm a little messy over there, and I might correct that. Just to the lady who asked, we can paint over the glaze if we don't like how it looks. Just going to touch that up with Sunday tea, let it dry for a bit, and then apply my glaze again. I'm just going to show you guys, at the beginning of the video, we painted this. It's already pretty well absorbed, so I'm able to touch it and it's not really coming off my hands. But you can see the original fabric is poking through. So this was just one kind of slapdash coat that was moderately thin because I don't want to goop it on. And I like that. I love the 2 colors together. So I think I'm just going to do 1 quick coat and then call it a day. Just going to finish off with Jitterbug here. So I think I like the way that the flowers are kind of peeking through. I just want to make sure that the green isn't though. So that's all. So
send us some
much lighter one.
Yeah, just a nice brushed on coat.
Yeah.
Send us some hearts and some likes if you are loving this color combo. I know I am.
I'd say this is a pretty versatile look. I can see this in my house. I can see this in everybody else's house I know. The coastal blues are very in right now, and this is a really good weathered effect look that maybe might work in your home. So be sure to post in the comments what you plan on painting with your winnings if you're a lucky winner. I think we're going to draw that pretty soon. I'm just going to finish this. Get those comments in. There's a lot of paint in those pints. They go a long way.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. It looks like our video froze for a couple seconds, but hopefully you're all back with us now.
Sorry about that. Whoops. All right, so I just finished touching up the little spots. I'm going to let this sit again, and I think I'm going to stop there. Once this is dry, I'm going to finish it up with our natural wax, and I'm going to do the seat cushion and the rest of the chair in our wax. So that's just a little rough demo using our Sunday tea, our Graphite Glaze, and our Jitterbug paint. I hope you guys liked it, and now we're going to draw our winner.
Okay.
Who is it going to be?
Sorry, everybody. Just trying to find our winner here. Okay, and our lucky winner is, drumroll please, Jennifer Mulholland.
Congratulations, Jennifer. You're our winner. You get our 2 pints of paint, our pint of glaze, and this super awesome painting sponge that I'm in love with. I hope you do a lot of good things with that. Be sure to share on our Facebook page. I'm sure everyone watching the video today would love to see what you turn out with your paints. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their day. I hope that you took some great tips from here, maybe inspired. Hope you like the colors we chose, and I'll be back for another video soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.